Dune 2021 has a new set of reviews from people who have seen the film early, alongside a new international release date. It's been a long time since we've had news on Denis Villeneuve's adaptation, but we may finally be getting more details with the film currently scheduled to come out later this year. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the new early reviews from a test screening and the release date change, along with giving my own thoughts towards it. Before I get into it though, if you want to see much more videos on Dune leading up to its release date, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoy this video, remember to leave a like rating. But without further ado, let's discuss this recent information for Dune. So, starting off with the release date change, it seems that Dune will be released in theatres internationally 2 weeks before hitting HBO Max. While this has not yet been confirmed in any official capacity, there are now rumours that director Denis Villeneuve's science fiction epic will be released onto big screens everywhere other than the US earlier. The current plan is that theatrically, Dune will be released on September the 15th in France and Russia, September the 16th in Australia, and September the 17th in the UK. More dates have also been confirmed since, so you can check these out online. This will then be followed by a theatrical and HBO Max release on October the 1st in the United States. So this release would be 2 weeks before it hits HBO Max and potentially other streaming platforms outside the US, giving cinemas an exclusive release time. The move would not come as too much of a surprise, as Warner Bros. Plans to release their entire slate to HBO Max and theatres simultaneously, alongside this being met with criticism from many prominent filmmakers, including Dune director Denis Villeneuve. The director said that Dune is by far the best movie he's ever made, and that his team is devoted to make it a unique big screen experience. He says that the movie's image and sound were meticulously designed to be seen in theatres. Now, many of us, including myself, who are supporting theatres based on how Warner Bros. Went about making this move, are in agreement that Dune is a film that has to be seen in this way, and it looks like Denis is continuing to push for that release strategy. We'll have to see, but it's promising that the film may get an early release in theatres based on this new update. But moving on to the early reviews, this news was discussed by a few people weeks ago based on some potentially credible reactions from people who have seen the film in test screenings. I personally have had a busy few weeks and have only just got around to reading these reviews, but I thought I would still address them and break down what they said in a video. To start off with, it's key to note that the two viewers who addressed their reactions gave them under slightly different circumstances. Viewer 1's answers belong to a test screener from October, and they are completely unfamiliar with any Dune media whatsoever. The AMA was conducted in a Discord server over 2 hours. And viewer 2's answers belong to a test screener from November, and they were also unfamiliar with Dune but read the first book post the screening. The AMA for this took place in January 2021 via 4chan's TV board. I will leave a link down below, as there are answers I will not address as they are very spoiler heavy, but I will be getting onto the bulk of their general reviews. So when asked about their thoughts on the film, the first viewer stated that they loved it. They said that although they are not too familiar with the source material, they do think this will absolutely be the definitive Dune adaptation. They didn't love it quite as much as Blade Runner 2049, but stated that it's very close in quality. The second viewer stated that they read the book after the test screening, but that it felt like watching Fellowship of the Ring in theatres for the first time. They go on to say that the film will make people who never heard of Dune love the universe. In reverse to the other viewer, they also state that they like it more than Blade Runner 2049, which was their favourite movie. They wrap up their general thoughts by giving ratings, with viewer 1 giving it a 9 out of 10 and viewer 2 giving the film a 10 out of 10. Viewer 1 did say that their only real complaint was that as a non-book reader, there can at times be a little too much info to take in, but I think we all know as Dune fans that this would be the case with some reactions based on the source material. This does seem minor based on what this person said, so I'm guessing the director and team have done a good job in balancing that out if we go on the info presented in these reviews. But they do themselves summarise by saying that they understood enough of it to a point where it did not ruin the experience. The only other details they noted in this first section was that it pushes the PG-13 rating with a death of a certain character, calling it brutal. Now, I won't name the character in this video because of too much spoilers, but again, you can look at this via the link in the description. But it seems that Denis will be doing as much as he can to have the natural violence from certain scenes in the book, but also limiting it for the worldwide audience. Now, this is where we start to get into more interesting details about the film specifically. When it comes to cinematography, their opinions align, with one stating that while Blade Runner 2049 is very neon, Dune is very much not. While stating how beautiful it is to look at, they refer to the set design and how the images released online don't do the film justice. The movie has its own distinct style and the lighting is very naturalistic, which is something I've also talked about on this channel in the past. The other viewer, however, stated that the film is pretty grey, but it still has lots of colour, alongside claiming that if you like the trailer shots, you'll probably like the cinematography and colour grading in the movie. Moving on to the performances, viewer 1 really liked the look of David Dastmalchian, saying that he's incredibly pale with no eyebrows and has a line on his lips. He seems to be the right-hand man to the Baron and is also intimidating, but we should have got more of him. Jason is great alongside Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto, who is also amazing. They further found Stellan Skarsgård pretty intimidating, and in particular the deepness of his voice is just frightening. He's like Snoke, but in a good way is what this person claims to have found. Javier and Zendaya are fine, but we get very little screen time of them, and overall their favourite performances were Stellan, Oscar and Timothee in that order. The second viewer gave their thoughts on the performances, saying that Jessica is a great character, though they think a lot of people will like Oscar in the film because it's great to see him act in a serious way. There are apparently lots of scenes with Leto with Paul, showing them bond, and they show why he is such a good person. The Baron again is mentioned as the viewer says that he is a lot of fun, and that they even reference the fact that he is related to the Atreides when he meets Duke Leto. Paul again is mentioned as being great too alongside Javier Bardem's Stilgar, but they say that the weakest character was Gurney and that they could have done him more justice. So both of these align up in a certain way, claiming that Paul, the Baron and others make great performances across the board. They also both state that the audience was cheering and clapping at the end of the film, and that they are very confident it will be a hit. Both of them were then asked about the VFX, set design and costumes, with viewer 1 stating that the architecture is very brutalist, with the Wallace Corporation building in Blade Runner 2049 being the closest resemblance to the Arrakis building aesthetic. The sets are grand and impressive, and you really haven't seen most of it at all. The VFX, costume design, production design, soundtrack and cinematography are claimed by this person to all be Oscar worthy. Viewer 2 backed this up by saying they all looked great, and there is lots of stuff the audience hasn't seen yet in any merchandise or promos for the film. The next question was surrounding the soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, and one viewer said that the score seemed pretty finished and it was perfect. They also say that they are not into Zimmer as of late, but he really brought his A-game with this film, similar to 2049, but there was quite a lot of chanting and some creepy alien sounds at the beginning. I personally love all of Zimmer's recent work, but I can understand this person's perspective. They go on to say that it felt like an assault on the ears, and that there's also a note here that claims that there was no opening sequence and only text during narration by Helen Mohame. To me, that sounds a bit like the opening to 2001: A Space Odyssey, but in a slightly different context. But Viewer 2 also weighed in briefly, saying that again the soundtrack is amazing, and like Viewer 1, they use the word alien to describe it. The last question they were asked before getting into story-based answers was to do with the runtime. Viewer 1 said the movie was about 2 hours and 10 minutes with credits cut off, which to them was surprisingly shorter, but at the same time it felt incredibly well paced. They add that Hans Zimmer's version of Eclipse played during the credits. Viewer 2 said the film is around 2 hours and 15 minutes long with credits, which again correlates with Viewer 1 if we add on the 5 minutes or so of credits. So I think with regards to technical filmmaking and from a performance standpoint, we can say that these early viewers really enjoyed everything they saw, with certain points being addressed by both, especially considering that their screenings were a month apart. But it's from here that they begin to get into some of the story-related questions, and although I'm not going to cover all of these because of too many spoilers, I wanted to at least address the ones that I could. But again, if you want to read these bigger spoilers, then I would recommend visiting the link in the description. Starting with the question on where the film ends, without giving too much details of course, Viewer 1 said that it definitely feels like an ending that sets up a second film with the Water of Life scene that most of us predicted. Paul's famous duel is also near the end, and a lot of the conspiracy against the Atreides takes up the runtime. Viewer 2 adds that it's clear they want the sequel to happen after the time skip that most of us know from the novel. So no surprise there for those of us who predicted this outcome of the first film. The smaller details include Viewer 1 stating that their favourite scene was the famous one between Duke Leto and the Baron, and that the fight choreography, lasguns and Sardaukar are all reminiscent of Star Wars but in a more grown-up and realistic way. Again, this is something we all speculated, but knowing how Denis approaches science fiction and action alongside the material he's adapting, this seems like a fitting approach. An interesting point to note is that both viewers stated that neither the Emperor nor Fade appear in the film, but they are mentioned a lot. This could be because they are more critical to the events of film 2 and are only being set up ready for them to have more vital roles. They do go on to talk very briefly about Jessica and Paul using their voices, how the Baron floats in the film, Jessica's fighting skills, and Raban's role, but these do contain some spoilers. In particular though, Viewer 2 ends by discussing whether the film leaves anything unanswered. They say that while the film does end on the Water of Life scene and it leaves a lot of stuff unanswered, it does end on a hopeful note, and the scene between Chaney and Paul at the end gives you a nice piece of closure. They hope Dune will get a sequel because the film to them was a complete ride. I must say that this does make me happy because I wanted the first film to feel like a complete arc, but also one which sets up the potential sequel. These reactions do sound like the film is doing that, but we can only wait to see if they are accurate, as people are saying. But they were all the latest details surrounding the new reviews and international release date change for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I think these reactions are trustworthy based on the screenings they claim to be at, and the fact that both of them align in similar ways. I do think a lot of this information was stuff we suspected, but when it comes to the filmmaking, this is where the intriguing elements were. The fact that they were all blown away by the production and the sheer scale of what Denis and his team have done just in this first film shows what we could expect from Dune as a whole. Again, we have to take these reviews with a grain of salt, but it sure does look promising. But I'm hoping we will start to get some more information surrounding the film, alongside receiving a broader range of reactions in the coming months. We'll have to see, but so far, things are looking bright for the new adaptation of Frank Herbert's world, and hopefully we will be able to see it on the big screen later this year. Let me know down below in the comment section what you personally think towards these set of reviews, and your own thoughts on this updated release date. For more videos surrounding Dune leading up to its release this year, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like rating. I will be covering news and topics for Dune whenever new information comes out, alongside continuing my Road to Dune series in the next few weeks, so look out for all of these uploads. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.